College Park, MD, November 17, Dwayne Haskins. Photo by Will Newton, Getty Images. Dwayne Haskins is considered to be one of the better passers in the 2019 NFL Draft. So, naturally, the Redskins have interest in him. At the moment, the Redskins' quarterback situation is unsettled. Alex Smith is likely out for the 2019 season after suffering a brutal injury last year. The team brought in Case Keenum to compete for the starting job with Colt McCoy, but those two are only on one-year deals and should be viewed as stopgap options. The Skins have done a lot of work on the quarterback position so far, and Haskins is one of the players that they have interest in. CBS Sports' Jason LeCanfor recently reported that Washington may like Haskins enough to trade up to get him, and that sparked some discussion around the team's fan base about whether or not moving up for Haskins would be a good idea. One voice heard, "Join the Riggo's Rag team. Right for us." While it's too early to know exactly what the Skins will do, their interest in a first-round quarterback is noted and significant. They may like to draft one early to give their squad youth an upside, but it will be hard to do that without moving up. The situation surrounding Haskins is a good example of why not many, if any, first-round quarterbacks will be on the board when the Skins are picking. Here's a look at why getting Haskins, or any other quarterback, is possible but difficult for Washington. Next, Haskins probably won't fall. Page 2 PASADENACA, January 1, Dwayne Haskins. Photo by Jeff Gross, Getty Images. There have been some that are hoping for Haskins to slip in the draft and fall in the Redskins' lap. That certainly would be excellent news for the team, but it is highly unlikely to happen. Depending on who you talk to, Haskins is usually listed as one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the 2019 NFL Draft. While some may prefer Drew Lock or Daniel Jones to him, which would push Haskins down the board, it's unlikely that he would make it to the 15th pick. In recent seasons, first-round quarterbacks have tended to rise in the lead-up to the draft as opposed to falling. Take the 2017 NFL Draft class, for example. Though the class was widely regarded as a weaker draft at the position, much like this year's class, 3 passers still went in the top 12 picks. They were the only first-round quarterbacks picked that year. In fact, in the last 5 drafts, there have been 16 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the NFL Draft. Only 4 of them fell outside of the top 12 picks. For those that are curious, the 4 in that category were Johnny Manziel, Teddy Bridgewater, Paxton Lynch, and Lamar Jackson. So, while certain top quarterback prospects have slipped in the past, it doesn't happen often. In a class that is starved for talent in general, a slip for Haskins just doesn't seem likely. He may be viewed as a somewhat raw prospect due to the fact that he only started for 1 season, but his accuracy and arm talent are certainly encouraging enough to make him a coveted prospect. Plus, there is recent precedent for a team to take a 1-year starter at quarterback with their top pick. The Chicago Bears did this when they took Mitchell Trubisky 2nd overall in 2017. Given that Haskins is probably a better prospect than Trubisky, he should have a chance to go similarly high in the 2019 NFL Draft. So, in order for the Redskins to have any shot at him, they'll have to trade up for him. Next, trade-up possibilities. Page 3 PASADENACA, January 1, Dwayne Haskins. Photo by Harry Howe, Getty Images. If the Redskins desire to trade up for a quarterback, there will be ample opportunities to do so. Make no mistake. There are several places that the team could attempt to trade up in order to leapfrog some other potential quarterback-needy teams. We are going to focus on a few different options. The first would be trading up to the number 3 spot in a deal with the Jets. New York is lacking a second-round pick from the Sam Darnold trade last year, so they may be more than happy to trade down. That said, going down from number 3 to number 15 would be a big jump, and it would likely cost the Redskins a lot. In all likelihood, the Redskins would have to give up the 15th pick this year's second round, and a 2020 first-round pick to move up to the No. 3 pick. If they view Haskins as a franchise quarterback, that haul could be justified. However, it would still deplete their early round resources, which would make it far more difficult for them to build around Haskins on the offensive side of the ball. More from Rigo's rag and other trade-up option would be the number 5 pick with the Buccaneers. The Bucs could use some offensive and defensive line help, so they may be happy to pick up some extra resources via trade down. In turn, the Redskins would draft ahead of the Giants, who may or may not be interested in Haskins. This trade would be slightly more palatable, as the Skins may not necessarily have to surrender a future first-round pick. However, if teams get into a bidding war over the pick, that could happen. And at the very least, they would have to give up the 15th pick and 2 second-round picks to make this deal happen. The final trade option would be jumping over the Broncos and Bengals to draft with the number 9 pick. The Bills are currently slated to pick there. In the event that Haskins is still on the board there, the Redskins could offer their first-round pick and a second-rounder. That would likely suffice, meaning that this would be the most ideal trade-up scenario. Still, there's no guarantee that Haskins would be on the board there. And no matter how you look at it, Washington would have to give up a lot to get him. While that might be worth it for a player that is viewed as a franchise quarterback, it's hard to justify giving up that much for a one-year starter, especially when you would lack the offensive weaponry around him to make him a quality passer. And, of course, the Skins would have competition for these trade-up opportunities, so the prices could get inflated even more. Next, Redskins will have competition. Page 4 EAST Rutherford, NJ, December 31st, Eli Manning. Photo by Abby Parr, Getty Images. Some have been quick to point out the fact that not many teams drafting ahead of the Redskins need a quarterback. To an extent, this is true. However, some teams that don't necessarily need a quarterback are still in the hunt for one, so the competition for Haskins will be fierce. There are about 5 teams ahead of the Redskins that could consider drafting Haskins. This excludes the Arizona Cardinals, who seem locked in on taking Kyler Murray with the first overall pick. But 5 teams is a lot to compete with, and it will make trade negotiations both difficult and expensive. This first team that could legitimately consider Haskins is the Raiders. Yes, they have Derek Carr, but they are rumored to like Haskins. With 3 first-round picks, they could take Haskins and look to develop him for a year behind Carr and then trade Carr during or after the 2019 season. It's not a guarantee, but they are a sleeper team for a quarterback. After that comes a couple of teams that really need young quarterbacks in the Giants and Broncos. Both have been tied to some of the passers in this class, so they could easily opt for Haskins if he's on the board. That's why the picks directly in front of these two teams are compelling trade-up spots for the Redskins. Further down, both the Bengals and the Dolphins could use a quarterback. It's unclear what the Bengals want to do at the position, but Andy Dalton hasn't gotten the job done yet and they have a new head coach in Zach Taylor. So, they can't be counted out. Meanwhile, the Dolphins may be tanking for a quarterback in the 2020 class, but they could fall in love with one of the prospects in the lead-up to this year's draft class. If Haskins is on the board, he would give them youth and upside at quarterback, something that they are severely lacking with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm. Next, Haskins can be had, but Page 5 INDIANAPOLIS, in, March 2nd, quarterback Dwayne Haskins of Ohio State works out during Day 3 of the NFL Combine at Lucas Oil Stadium on March 2, 2019 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Photo by Joe Robbins, Getty Images. The combination of rising quarterbacks, costly trade-up opportunities, and high-level competition for Haskins will make it hard for the Skins to land him. If they really think he is the answer at quarterback, they could trade up and target him. But needless to say, he will be difficult and costly to get. The same can be said for the other top quarterbacks in this class. Drew Lock has more of a chance of sliding than Haskins, but in order to guarantee that they get him, the Redskins would likely have to move up. And even still, there wouldn't be any guarantees that a team doesn't take him early. At the moment, the only quarterback that seems to have a good chance of being on the board at 15 is Daniel Jones. And even that's questionable, as his value could rise if other quarterbacks go off the board early. In short, getting a first-round quarterback can be done. But it's not going to be easy. And for a player like Haskins, who seems to be generating more interest as the draft draws nearer, the Redskins are going to have to do a lot to get him. If they think they can sit back, wait, and try to select him, they may end up disappointed. Next, why re-signing Junior Galette makes sense for Redskins. If I were the Redskins, I would wait to see if any passers fall. If none do, I'd address either the edge, offensive line, or wide receiver with the first-round pick. If the team doesn't find a passer in the first round, they can focus on building up the rest of the team while targeting a future starter in the 2020 draft. Page 6, CHAPEL Hill, NC, September 26, Blaine Woodson. Photo by Grant Halverson, Getty Images. For what seems like the third time in a row, at least, the Washington Redskins are dead set in the center of the first round. It's not an ideal position to be in, but there are some ways such unfavorable position could bear fruit for the Redskins. It's possible that, at number 15, some top talent could trickle down through the cracks and be available to Washington. Such a thing happened last year, when both Darren Payne and Derwin James were on the board at pick no. 13. This year, top prospects like Brian Burns, DK Metcalf, Cody Ford, and TJ Hawkinson could drop into the Redskins' lap, among others. If no top talents drop, however, and the Redskins find themselves drafting for need, they're at a spot where they could also trade back if a quarterback were to fall to them, for example. If the Redskins trade back, they'll find a new batch of players to consider. And the safety position enters the fold. Want your voice heard? Join the Riggo's Rag team. Write for us. If the Redskins find themselves interested in a running mate for Landon Collins in the 2019 NFL Draft, who might fit what they're looking for? To answer that question, I'd like to introduce you to Delaware's Nasir Adderley. Page 7, CHAPEL Hill, NC, September 26, Nasir Adderley. North Carolina 141-14. Photo by Grant Halverson, Getty Images. There isn't much tape on Nasir Adderley, but it doesn't take long to see what kind of player he is, and what kind of player he can become in the NFL. The potential jumps off the screen with Nasir Adderley. He's a very good athlete with clear developmental upside. He can generate lots of momentum very quickly, encapsulating his excellent burst. Adderley isn't just a vertical athlete, either. His hips flip with ease, and he has the flexibility to maintain speed and leverage all at once. His pro day results, shared by Martin Frank of the Delaware News Journal, accentuate his athletic talent. Adderley's lateral quickness and flexibility also allows him to close pursuit from bad angles, but generally, he has a decent feel for angles, although he can be inconsistent. As a tackler, Adderley is fairly solid, with good form and strength to wrap players up, and the fortitude to win one-on-one collisions. Speaking of collisions, Adderley feasts on conflict. He's an absolute aggressor on the field. He fights blockers relentlessly on run snaps, and his attitude is contagious on defense. He's a bit inconsistent with run fits and gap surveillance, but you never have to worry about his effort. He files into trench warfare seamlessly, ferocious with his hands. Adderley's aggression in run defense doesn't translate in open space when it doesn't have to. He isn't reckless with his range, as he generally knows when to exercise caution, in order not to sacrifice his tackling angle. That said, he can lose his balance when he cuts his angle too short, limiting his leverage. But with his athleticism, Adderley is good at recovering. Adderley's brightest moments are in coverage, where he flashes the range to cover large chunks of the field very quickly, and where he punishes receivers over the middle of the field. He's very physical when contesting passes, and he attacks the ball at the catch point with definite ball skills. Adderley can be late diagnosing out breaking routes, but he follows the play wherever it goes, and he reads the quarterback's eyes well. With some development and NFL film work, he can be an impact starter. Nasir Adderley vs. North Dakota State 2018. Nasir Adderley vs. Elon 2018. Next, how Adderley fits with the Redskins. Page 8. Use your arrows to browse East Rutherford, New Jersey, December 2nd. Landon Collins. Photo by Elsa. Getty Images. With his range and coverage upside, Nasir Adderley would pair well with the Redskins' new starting strong safety. You may have heard of him, Landon Collins. Collins can do it all as a safety, but his best traits feature him in a box role, where he can clamp down on underneath routes and punish ball carriers looking to turn upfield. While Collins is in his element, having a safety who could range over the top and provide a safety blanket farther down the field could work well for the Redskins, and Adderley projects well into that role. Adderley played single high, cover 2, and in the slot at Delaware, and he has the athleticism to continue providing such a well-rounded impact in the NFL. Big nickel sets that feature Collins, Adderley, and Nicholson could also work well, if the latter still has a role with the team. Next, should the Redskins draft Adderley? Use your arrows to browse